The door was unlocked. Are you doing okay?
Justin, you want to go see a movie?
I'm being mocked.
You're being mocked?
She's mocking me! I can't figure it out. I can't figure out the connections, but she must be an alien or she must be a demon. She cannot naturally shrink down like that if she's a human, don't you understand? And she knows that I'm onto her, but I can't piece it together, so she's mocking me, constantly mocking me!
I'm sure he's fine.
Yeah, let's just go.
There comes a time in every anime fan's life where they have to ask themselves, am I letting my love for anime negatively affect my personality? Before you answer, really take the time to watch Himouto Umaru-chan, as once you finish that show, you may start to think differently about your response. Originally a manga series written by Sankaku Head, this series captured the hearts of otakus everywhere, and in July of 2015, animation studio Doga Kobo brought the cola-loving Himouto to life on screen. This series follows the life of Umaru Doma, a high school student who is deemed perfect in every single possible way you can think of outside of her household, but lives a secret life of watching anime, playing games, and eating massive amounts of junk food. Psh, and for otaku's fantasy, am I right? While living her double life, her older brother Taihei Doma works constantly to support the two of them and is the only one who knows about Umaru's secret, which leaves the pair of siblings to live out a life of constant comedy and mischief, though usually at the expense of Taihei. Throughout this series, a variety of characters befriend the Doma siblings, and that leads to some interesting challenges Umaru must face in order to keep up her perfect image, while still being the lazy Himouto that she actually is. Nana Ebina. A very shy classmate and a friend of Umaru's, she can be ditzy at times and easily flustered, especially when it comes to her giant crush on Taihei, but she's a very sweet girl who can light up any scene that she's in. Sylphinford Takibana. Often referred to as Sylphie, she is the eccentric, self-named rival of Umaru and is always competing against her in anything she can make a competition out of, whether it be taking a test or even just finishing lunch the quickest. Kiri Motoba. Classmate of Umaru's whose piercing stare intimidates the people around her, but deep down is just another shy girl who has trouble making friends and admires Umaru for how amazing she appears to be. Takeshi Motoba. Nicknamed Bomber, he is the co-worker of Taihei and the older brother of Kiri. He is a goofball at heart and often tries his best to make others around him feel good, even if he can be lazy at times. Alex Takibana. Another fellow co-worker of Taihei and sibling to Sylphie, he loves anime and gaming, which leads him to slack off looking at one or the other while at work. Kanu Kangu. The manager of Taihei and his co-worker, she is an old friend of the workers and especially fond of Taihei, often leading her to flirt with him but never working up the nerve to actually ask him out. The life of a social recluse shut-in who only cares about anime and gaming wouldn't make for a great story if it wasn't for the dual identity aspect of our main character, which leads into a lot of the slice of life aspects of this series. Umaru is the center of everyone around her, especially her friends and classmates. She is deemed perfect in every regard, which drives characters like Ebina and Kiri to constantly want to be around her as they admire how great Umaru is showcased throughout the series, while Sylphie constantly competes with her because of how perfect she is, which leads into some nice moments of self-reflection and character building for each character in the cast as they get closer to each other. The best example of this is in the relationship between Umaru and her older brother. Brother and sister relationships aren't always cut and dry of getting along with one another. The siblings have fights throughout the show, and there are moments where they don't want to be around each other, but no matter what, they will always care about one another, which leads to some heartwarming scenes between the two when the show calls for it, even if they are somewhat far in between each other. While the slice of life aspects of the show work because of the characters, there is one significant drawback in my opinion that this show has, and that is Umaru herself, specifically her Himouto life at home. I understand her tendencies help punctuate the comedy the series is going for at times, but it also comes off as a bit annoying for her character rather than being a fun quirk about her. She brings a negative over-exaggeration of the stereotypical nerd, which isn't bad for the most part, as sometimes poking fun at it does work in a comedic sense, but it leads her to be undeniably demanding over her older brother who constantly provides for her and their household, which is so unfair to her brother. Also, this might just be my personal gripe about her, but what exactly is Umaru? She can't possibly be a normal human being able to shrink down like that. Does her brother just not question it? Is she an alien? These questions keep me up at night wondering, and I know one day when I end up in hell, my torture for all eternity will be Umaru facing me, mocking me that I will never know the truth about what the hell she is. Sorry, I just get riled up when I think about that. Jokes aside, I understand it's all for comedic purposes, and I can see how it can be appealing to some fans seeing the stereotype played like that. I'm just not one of them. If you take out Umaru's behavior from the equation, the series does portray the lifestyle of an average anime fan in a way that is appealing to the audience. It showcases the stigma of wanting to hide the things you enjoy because you're afraid of being judged, which is a real thing people sometimes have to deal with, but the series also shows you that just because a person may appear one way on the outside doesn't mean they don't have another side of them that could possibly enjoy all the things that you do as well. Take Sylphie for example. She clearly comes from a wealthy background and lives more of an elegant life compared to an average high school student, but it gets revealed later on she's a big fan of gaming and anime, which coincides with Umaru's interests, and even though Umaru still hides her identity with a mask, she can hang out with Sylphie doing interests that they both enjoy deep down, and that's a really nice thing to see on screen that the audience can 100% relate to. Though real talk for a second, you should still always be yourself around others. Don't hide your passions, embrace them. Life gets a lot better when you express your real self. The other side of this series is the comedy, which I can give this show points for, as it does most of the comedic moments really well throughout its 12-episode run. This series doesn't use a one story per episode format, it tells multiple stories in small snippets, which gives time for a lot of the characters to bring the charm and keep the episode fresh with different comedic moments. It also has dozens of nerdy references sprinkled throughout the series, like a parody Street Fighter competition, constant Hatsune Miku references, and my personal favorite, a whole bit involving an Ace Attorney trial setup, which was fantastic to see, and plenty of moments like that help connect the audience to the world and the jokes delivered in the series. The quirkiness of each character helps bring the comedy in full, as moments like when Ebony gets flustered over her crush on Taihei, or when she gets embarrassed over her own dialect, are very memorable moments and are enjoyable because of how shy and nervous of a character she is, leading you to not only laugh but also care about the character on screen, which is an excellent combo. As stated earlier though, with how I described Umaru, the quirkiness of a character can hold some jokes back, like in the case of Kiri with how she fangirls hard over Komaru, which doesn't really come off as comedic to me. Even though it does work with her shyness admittedly, it just seemed a little off for the jokes intended at these moments. Animation wise, Doga Kobo did really well visually for the aesthetic of the series, using warm bright colors for when Umaru is out and about publicly, but gets toned down a lot when she reverts to her demon form, complementing the shift in personality and matches perfectly because of it. Character designs for each character look very distinct from one another, with subtle hints to their personalities being emulated with how they look, especially in the eyes and resting facial expressions of the cast. Movement wise, for the most part, was fluid and well timed on screen, although a couple times the movement just seemed weird, and not even for comedic purpose either, it just didn't look natural. The visual gags were well timed and animated really well though, as the studio knew when to shift the color scheme to match the tone of the scene to help punctuate the punchline of each joke, and even if the joke wasn't that great, it still looked really good visually. The opening to this anime I have a very love-hate relationship with. As a nerd, I love all the references to games such as Mario Kart and Pokemon, but seeing Umaru's erratic behavior throughout the opening is a bit much for me. But on the flip side, I understand, as this series is very much about the lifestyle of this Himouto, and keeping that aspect in mind, I can say the opening portrays what you're getting into with this series very well and coordinates with the music beautifully for when the song ramps up to match the hyperness of Umaru, but slows down to more of an elegant kind of singing when it's portraying the perfect Umaru. While the soundtrack of the anime is pretty good, especially for a comedic anime, not a whole lot of it is memorable once you're finished with the anime, but on the other hand, the sound effects that chime in when the characters are making jokes are really well timed and will stick with you even if you don't want them to. The ending theme is one of the best things from the show, as it showcases the four main girls enjoying life together, and the song used for it has the voice actresses for the group singing together, perfectly matching how these characters end up being best friends and how important they are to each other, which is a fantastic nod to the slice of life aspect of the show. Once again, I have only seen the sub version of this series, and I think the voice actors were very fitting for the roles they had to portray. I will never get Umaru screeching Oni-chan out of my head, but that's a good thing for a voice actor to accomplish, especially for the kind of character Umaru is. Each role had their own eccentric ways of performing, and that was very refreshing to see in an anime that uses slapstick comedy to portray its points. While this anime does have a lot of heart and charm going for it underneath all the silliness of the main character, the tendencies of Umaru for me personally made me not as invested in this series as I could have been, but I can also see how people connect with a show like this and find it very enjoyable if they are into anime and gaming. I give Himouto Umaru-chan 6 colas out of 10. If you find comedy pertaining to the tropes of being an otaku enjoyable, this anime is definitely one you should check out. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a whiteboard to burn. Alright, now that that's finally done, I don't ever have to hear Umaru screech again. Oh god, please no!